And what's up? Welcome in GC Live Tuesday episode of the show. He is Chris Clark. I am Wes Mitchell. Great show lined up for you here today. We are brought to you, as always, by our good friend Clint Hammond of the Mortgage Network, ClintHammond.com. You see it right there on the video screen if you are one of our lucky watchers and listeners who joins us live every single day around 2 o'clock. Obviously, Tuesday, we're a little bit later, 2:30 show, because you have the Shane Beamer press conference going on. And that will be one of the main topic of our conversation here today. And, of course, going to be joined momentarily. I see him down there getting in line there, Langston Moore. And we're going to bring him in here in just a second. Langston, a friend of the show, all-around good dude, former Gamecock, former NFLer. He's an author. He is the co-founder of Athletes and Artists. And, guys, he's actually, I believe, a voiceover man as well. So I'm going to play for y'all right before I pull Langston in. This is, by the way, Teacher Appreciation Week at the South Carolina football game this week. So Langston's going to talk about that a little.
Nah, that won't work. Nah, that's too small. What is that? Nope. Hey, what is this? Just a chicken. Just a chicken little. These might be just right.
Langston, what's up, man? I believe we got there we go. Langston, can you hear us? Can
Is
we
that
hear
better?
you? Yeah, perfect, man. Perfect.
Yes, sir. There we go.
There he is. It is Langston Moore. I wanted for everybody to. I saw y'all got a little NIL deal with the Carry On Joiner, man. Very, very good stuff there, promoting the book. And dude, we've got a ton of stuff to get to today. A ton of stuff to talk to. We want to talk some ball with you. We want to talk, of course, about the book. We want to talk about Teacher Appreciation Day. First of all, how are you, man? How's it going? What's been going on with you?
Man, everything's great. So, still recovering from that epic night that y'all had the privilege of getting us ready for the season with everything with Patrick Davis and all that stuff. But yeah, just been finishing up the production of our third book. Houston Was a Rooster. I'll make sure we send y'all some of the great stuff Kev has been doing for us. And of course, finishing up the song and the production and trying to line everything up with these Nashville stars. I thought football guys were kind of prima donnas and all that stuff, but man, getting all these country guys lined up and with the help of Michael Haney, who helped us write this song to coincide with the book that we're going to be releasing here soon. It's been really fun. So we've been working on that deal, getting studio time together. Hopefully we, fingers crossed, can get some of that Gamecock studio time over there at the new facility or whatever. That would be really cool. And then just finishing up a whole bunch of other digital things, the other little components, and of course trying to support the teachers amongst doing all the other things we do, school visits, virtual, in person, all of those other things. So it's been really exciting, of course, to kind of kick off Teacher Appreciation Week, because if anybody kind of deserves a round of applause, all teachers do all the time, because we know we put so much on them with society, but especially after the last couple years, if anybody needed some recognition, it's those teachers for sure, because so much virtual, in person, it's just been crazy. So it's been fun, man. We staying busy.
Definitely, man. And of course, we appreciate you making the time. Busy, man. As you just said, you got a lot going on, man. Let's start with the teachers, though, because you're right. Everybody listening, everybody watching, everybody you come in contact with has been touched by a teacher in some way at some point in their life. My mom is a teacher. So this is actually her last year teaching. She's about to retire. So shout out to my mom. She's been teaching almost 40 years. So shout to her. But a ton of my friends are teachers as well in the Columbia area. So shout out to them. And Langston, you get to go out to schools all over the state of South Carolina. Talk to kids, talk to teachers all the time. So I know this week is special to you as well. Tell us a little bit about what is going on with the game. I pulled it up. I believe this is going to be a Teacher Appreciation Day where maybe there's some special things for teachers who are going to the game this Saturday. South Carolina Vanderbilt homecoming matchup, of course, 4:00 Williams-Brice Stadium.
Yeah, they're going to definitely try to, do their best to honor the teachers of the years from the different districts and different things. And that's through the athletics department. Of course, Preston works in the Department of Education over there, who, they're that's the football training facility for the teachers and all the educators over there who, go off and who are on the front lines. And you're spot on when you're talking about, anything any of us ever wanted to do, we all, found that way through an educator or a teacher or a coach somewhere, some way, specifically with athletics. And this is why it's always a great time for us specifically to kind of make that parallel. Because like you said, my mom was a teacher. Some of the best coaches I ever had, bar none, football, whatever, were teachers and educators. And those folks are always the ones that, make sure that, they connect with us and make sure they, none of the kids would be on the roster right now if it wasn't for some type of teacher or somebody that really connected with them. So to honor them and connect with them, I know they're going to be doing some different things where they get some tickets and some gift bags and, beyond all the other things that's going on. It's just really a kind of an appreciation for us. And I always, appreciate what we can do. But, with us, we always want to push the boundaries. And that's why Press and I are really happy to kind of take on some of the things. And, beyond just this day, when we go into the schools and see these teachers and connect with them, a lot of the things we say when we have our Arthur visits in schools bring us in there, contract us to come up in there and speak and do different things. We always say we're not doing anything different. We're just kind of the muscle behind the message and kind of being the real tangible example of what happens when you kind of really connect with an educator or somebody and they get these ideas into you. I never forget Miss Keenum, my science teachers, there's so many. Miss Tolliver. We always tell this story when we're in school because kids are like, what'd you like when you were in school? I was like, man, I was, pretty much the same things I like now, like, football, sports, we read about those things now. And I always, shout out to Miss Tolliver, my third grade teacher. She let us dissect piglets when we were in, and that's why I always love science. And just, wasn't going to grow up to heal nobody's ankle or anything. But again, all of this is in the backs of education. That's one of the main things we always talk about, being really proud of our state, really being really proud of the educational system, because there are a lot of great resources there. We just got to extract them, no different than our football resources. So for a lot of us, we always say, for football and anything physical, that's going to end for us. And as you guys can attest to that with your own lives, being well-read, well-spoken, and be well-written, it can take you a lot further. And so that's our big message to get out there and tell people to go pro in books. And of course, we use our own story and backdrops and guys like DeCarrion Joyner, who graduated early, and all these great things to kind of carry that message. Because again, we all know we should read. Yeah, we know we should read. But having those examples and those literacy successes, we all got plenty of successes of, your dad will tell you those stories about his whole high school, football stories. They may be true or they may be not. It all depends. It's always funny. But we always want to get into conversations about books and literacy and different things, telling your favorite stories when you were a kid. And, a lot of things we usually find out is that, we grew up liking these things and can make a living out of it. And that's been really fun for us.
Langston, I want to kind of detour onto the NIL thing for just a second and maybe a couple quick things on it. Number one, obviously the kind of commercial that we just saw, as you pointed out, you worked with DeCarrion Joyner, current Gamecock receiver, on that. Give us a peek behind the curtain of kind of like how that came together, how you chose to carry on. Are you going to work with any athletes in the future? And then I've got a follow-up for you just with some NIL thoughts once you give us that answer.
For sure. DeCarrion, it was easy for us. He's a low country guy and he's a low country legend. Like, we wish we could have been him growing up, man. He obviously did phenomenal things with Fort Dorchester. I beat Fort Dorchester enough at James. I feel confident enough saying those things. I don't know if Somerville and Preston, you can ask him those things when he gets on later this week, because again, I know for sure they took some L's. Fort Dorchester gave Somerville plenty, but it was great to have DeCarrion because just beyond him being a phenomenal athlete, that's kind of the furthest thing from our mind. The biggest thing for us is that who he is as a person, being around him. Of course, our old teammates, Bennett Swaggart, those guys were some coaches down there. Coach LaPrade, obviously Somerville ties tied in, just a great mentor for us for a lot of just different avenues and different things. Obviously, he has been the bell cow for Dorchester and Coach LaPrade for, producing talent and producing, just not just collegiate guys, but putting, NFL guys into the deal. So it's been a really exciting to be a part of that. DeCarrion, of course, graduated early, came in with so many different things, but like just the whole deal is that, all the great things and the leadership qualities that he exudes, he'll go off and whatever happens with football will be fine. That'll take care of himself, but he'll come back. And this is kind of the message we try to echo to a lot of the guys who are thinking about coming to Carolina, or when we get a chance to speak with the guys, is that, that's forever 2D. This was something that was told to us, but it's the whole deal. If you give us 4 years, we give us your life, and that's kind of our whole deal. So any way we can support him financially with the NILs and making it realistically, but also for us to kind of go through the paces of like business. So Preston and I built some companies and done some different things and built a whole bunch of different things. So to go through that with the carry on, because I wanted to be a Dollar Moore School graduate, but I couldn't pass accounting. I failed it, tried it 3, 5, 6, 7 different times. Maybe because that was theory. Thank goodness I found a home in the HRSM department. They loved me, and it was, again, similar to business and a whole lot of, it was perfect for me. But when I started getting out to the real world, I can probably be an accountant myself, because I started dealing with real money. And so again, making that association, different things we try to connect with to carry on, going through contracts. So again, he can be an autonomous business. He can go out there and do these things separate from football and really don't have to put all his eggs into one basket, because we all know these things, how football is really a ticket, a bridge for a lot of us, coming out of wherever. And a lot of the times we always say, because of football, we are first generation to go to school, first generation to have maybe a consistent living situation, first generation to have, not have to worry about X, Y, Z. And that's the thing about the emphasis and why it's so important with college football. Yeah, there's a lot given, but there's still a lot of opportunity. So we really wanted to equip him and educate him, and that was a no-brainer for us. We plan on working with some other guys who have teaching backgrounds and different things where they really want to emphasize that, because, just like Eric Kimry comes to mind, all these great guys who have the thread of football going through their lives, but they're ultimately going to end up being great teachers, being great leaders, being great family guys. And that's how they're really going to make their impact, not being, that NFL star or whatever. That's, again, we always say the acronym for NFL is not for long. So even if you're good and you get there, you ain't going to be there long. And that's always everybody's testimony.
Yeah, and I think that's what's kind of fascinating about what you guys are doing, because you have this educational component, which is so much of what you and Preston and Kev, we'll give Kev some credit, right? He illustrates some of the books. We can give him some credit. Definitely not the muscle like you or Preston. He is a gym attendant. No muscle though on Kev. But y'all are kind of like looping in the NIL stuff, the business acumen, like trying to teach that through that. I think is fascinating, because something that like Wes and I hear a lot from people just in our interactions, critics of the NIL stuff, is like, well, the kids are getting a free education already. And I think there's so many counters to that. I see positives in it, because exactly one of the points you made, you're introducing these guys at a younger age, whether they end up going pro or not, to dealing with money, dealing with contracts, business. So is that, in your mind, do you kind of agree that that's one of the benefits maybe to NIL? And what do you think about the whole thing about free education versus, being able to do what everybody else can at any point in their life and cash in on their name, image, likeness?
Well, that first misnomer is definitely is that free ain't never free. You always got to exchange something. And so in the case of football, like I always said, I mean, it's not like, a majority of these guys who are playing football are coming in and just putting a burden on the engineering department, or they're coming in and putting a burden on the nursing and medical department. Like, most of the time, these guys are really they're doing what they're told most of the time. A lot of them come in with dreams of wanting to be XYZ, but then they see the workload. And that's the other thing we always say, is like the workload, no matter what sport you play, but specifically football and all the demands and how much that grows and how much football carries, the number one thing for all universities, which is making money and growing. And we know the correlations between popularity is like, the work that a football player puts in is on par with somebody who's going to medical school, or somebody who's trying to go through law school and do all these different things. But there's a physical component tied to that. If you get ready to do the GMAT and do all that stuff, you ain't physically going out there banging on Ryan Brewer and hopefully, you got your pride and all those different things tied into that. And then, feeling good to go out there and perform academically within the classroom. Because again, a lot of these guys who come in want to do, they're just as competitive in everything else. Don't ever think academics is something that they don't want to be competitive in. A lot of times they just feel they have to make a choice with that, and we're trying to show them they don't have to, because there's plenty of examples of that. But that's always the misnomer about the free education deal, because again, the kids, and we're talking about business and value propositions and different things, where like the value in an exchange that a player can give, a la the Carry On Joyner or any one of these kids, is exponentially more so than the yearly education. And again, it goes on years after that, because lo and behold, we're still telling the Ryan Brewer story every 10 years or 15 years. And again, he's still perpetually, paying into the brand that is Carolina. And again, we love it. That's what it is. But it's just a new time, new dynamic. And if we know better, we can do better. And this was, obviously something that is different from the 60s, 70s, and 80s and different things. And I think it does provide a platform for us to really, if we want to, and again, it comes down to the idea of control and really trying to empower the players. And it just goes back to programs where like teams that are really comfortable and programs and institutions that are really comfortable about growing the people inside of there, whether let's just take football out of there. Let's think about, the most successful tech companies or real estate companies or any of these things, they're figuring out ways to grow these people and figure out ways for those people to challenge them from the inside out. And eventually those people go off and splinter and start different companies and different things. Well, for football, a lot of times we don't want the kids to get too smart. They're going to be powerful. We know that for sure because we spend hundreds of millions on weight rooms and different things like that. But independently thinking and having these kids maybe saying, I don't know if I just want to take a general studies class. I want to really do this architecture thing, or I just really want to be, I want to be Sam Gatto and come back and eventually be a doctor because a lot, there's those opportunities, but a lot of guys quell those dreams and they forget about all those different things. So that's why we always named our first book Just a Chicken, because nobody's just anything. You're not just ever a defensive tackle, you're a run stopper, you're a pass rusher. So don't limit your life when it comes to those other things with education. But back to your question about NIL, I think it's just a great opportunity for guys to make money, to do certain things. But just like with any of the rules, and some folks are going to figure out the ways to learn all the intricacies, ins and out, and how to use those things to adapt them to their own, to help themselves, give themselves an advantage. And there's going to be those who feel like it's just too overwhelming. Let's stick with the status quo. And most of the time, those folks are either playing catch up or left behind. So, I feel good that we've done a lot of stuff at the university level to try to educate and put things in place. But, there's always more we can do. And I always go back to this idea of being creative. Let's not just see it as a, A plus B equals C deal where, they pay the players and we can't do this. And again, no, let's think about all the different creative ways that we can market and show the differentiators, because we do have so many Fortune 500 businesses and companies in South Carolina that are Gamecock alumni, that have ties to the businesses and different things in Carolina. Let's use that as a differentiator to separate ourselves from the Alabama, because it ain't going to be the national championships. It ain't going to be the Nick Saban. It ain't going to be the history of those different things. But we can start a new narrative if we want to get creative and use these rules. Because, again, there's not going to go anywhere. So, if anything, it's going to speed up. And because, again, the players are getting more and more cognizant of brands and all those different things like that.
And Langston, maybe for people who are listening and maybe they've thought about the NIL thing and they're interested, maybe they own a business. What has the experience been like for you? Just like literally doing it, like I think I've talked to some business owners that are intrigued, but they don't even quite know what it all even means yet. We were actually involved when I texted you, we were involved with a deal with Jaheim Bell. He was on with us yesterday,
Yes.
and it was fantastic. It was awesome. He sat down. We just had a conversation with him, which obviously, most of the time when you're talking to a student athlete, it's a press conference setting. It's kind of, there's a sense of, well, are these guys trying to get me to say something I shouldn't? And it's just a very different vibe. This was very cool for us to be involved in and just be able to sit down and have a conversation that was through an NIL deal with Firehouse that they put together. So what was it like for you and Preston and Kev just going through the process of setting it up? On our side, just kind of getting involved with it, it was very pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's relatively easy. And again, if you're already coming from the business world, again, just be creative. That's what the other thing I'd say. Don't think this is a magic bullet. And this is the same thing we tell the players as well. Just because, there's an opportunity for you to go out there and make money on the free market, just don't think you got just value because you wear number 17, whoever wear the number 17 on the team. I'm sorry. But if you just wear number 17, you just can't just say, I got the jersey, I wear number 17. That's me. What's up? Give me a whole bunch of money. Nah, what is the story you want to craft? I mean, again, the whole deal with us with the carry on, there's a lot of authenticity, a lot of things that are really easy for us to tell the story. And again, we already supported him and love to follow him since, before he probably even was following us, just because of, he just kind of epitomized all the stuff of him being a low country guy. So it's very easy for us. The university has some things in place so we can have the checks and balances. A lot of the players individually have some things in place. And again, I don't know if everybody's done a good a job as we have, but collectively we're on the forefront. Chance Miller, Coach Tanner, athletic director Tanner, those guys were always, very adamant about trying to make sure they come in here and we give guys the right information, because that's the worst thing we want to do is say it's just like a football play. The worst thing you can do is have bad information floating around that it's going to be this or it's on 2 or whatever, and that just messes it up. So really, if you're a business person and you want to try to connect, think of just again about instead of just trying to get the most popular kid out there and just paying them a whole bunch of money before, because again, we know how that's going to turn around. I mean, you might be able to get a whomever, but it turns around and it's not a right fit, or the kid doesn't is not very ongoing personally, but maybe it might be you had to figure out the way to craft the story. I don't know. But there is a lot of opportunity, and it still goes back to just business, making sure that you're making good, sound decisions. But as far as the communication and logistics, setting it up, it's been a great opportunity and very easy for us to do it through the carry on and through the athletics department. Very easy for sure.
All right, so Langston, tell us a little bit more about this third book. Tell the people that are listening, when is it coming out? Where are they going to be able to get it? What's kind of give us a little hint about some of the themes and things like that they're going to see in it.
For sure. Our third book is going to be called "Used Was a Rooster." And again, that's kind of an old trope used to hear from folks in the rural area and different things. Used to was a rooster that don't crow no more. And that's basically just this, just says that, what you used to do, you probably don't do. And this is kind of the life cycle of everybody, specifically football guys. But again, we put it in the context of, from our first book, from Just a Chicken and Cocky and Big Spur and different things. And our second book with Just a Chicken Little, tying in different things with the Gamecock curse and different chickens and Gamecock legends and different things and all the little nuance with that. So this one, we kind of brought it home with all of the beginning, middle, and end of a whole story. And basically, our guy Cocky has had some success. I want you to imagine maybe the Steve Spurrier years when we had a whole bunch of 11 wins. And I mean, it felt really good, but, not saying there's complacency, but again, you go into the off season, maybe not as hungry, and you don't put as much as you used to put into it. And a lot of times, people dwindle down with that and, hit kind of rock bottom before they get that last inspiration. But for us, it's just about, going back and being kind of the old guys in our own lives to give back a whole bunch of information, a bunch of game, bunch of knowledge. And this is real easy for us to understand when it comes to football, because we do these things called scouting reports, and we talk really open, but just in life general, just things about how you feel about yourself. And that's been kind of the overarching theme. And a lot of our books is about self-image and identity, not being just a chicken, you're a Gamecock. It doesn't matter if you're a Gamecock or not, but how you see yourself is really important, and how you talk to yourself. It doesn't matter if you're young or old, these things carry on all the way towards the end of this journey, however that journey is. So our main guy, Cocky, is excited. He's been having a whole bunch of fun hanging out with the Garcias of the world and having a whole bunch of success. And maybe he starts to realize there's some chinks in his armor, and, he can't do what he used to do. He can't bounce back like he used to. He can't have those long nights and go out and perform like he used to. And then our old guy used to comes down and kind of just gives them a new perspective, a new way to look at things, like all good teachers and coaches do. And again, they kind of, not to give the story away, but, they see themselves and they're kind of pass on the life's journey. And it's funny, we end up being older before a lot, and we're usually older a lot longer than we are younger. So we always tell guys, you can kind of take this as a story that, do as much as you can when you're young, have fun, but eventually you're going to be put out the pasture and, have a certain, but that doesn't mean that's the end of you. So it's been really exciting for us. It'd be appropriate for your mom, Wes. So, she's done so many great things in education, 40 plus years, God bless her. But she's not going to be able to open up the schools on the first day, and we don't need her to do that. She used to do that, but now we can have her serve in a different capacity and still get a whole bunch of stuff. So a lot of cool stuff for us, a lot of life lessons, man. We always have a phenomenal time just creating. And of course, Kev did the pictures, and we're really excited, Preston and I, because this was the first book that we actually rhymed all the way through. We usually always try to do some different things with our books, but this one we wanted to try to do some traditional rhyming, and it was a challenge for us, and it was fun. It was fun to come up with the finished product. We can't wait to share it. We plan on having the book here shortly. It's crazy, just they talk about world shortages and what was it, the channels being blocked with shipping containers and everything, but printing and price of ink and everything has been really crazy, to say the least, amongst with other things like toilet paper and everything. But every time we try to lock in a price, we get close to doing it, and things get changed and it's volatile. But long story short, we should have copies in hand by bare minimum. Hopefully Thanksgiving, fingers crossed, but definitely for the holiday season, then we'll have digital versions and different things too. So we can't wait to share it.
And obviously, everybody watching, listening right now, be on the lookout for on Twitter, on GamecockCentral.com as well. We're gonna give you all the information when it comes out, how you can get it, how you can buy it. And
Sure.
we'll keep all of you updated. But
And we'll have it on our website, athletesанdartists.net, where all of our stuff is, and of course have some cool links and downloads for y'all. We always love to run some specials to get everybody's content shown and our stuff for sure.
Definitely, man. Definitely. Langston, let's talk a little football for a second, if that's cool, man. I want to get into the season, but first of all, I always ask guys because I'm always curious. Former defensive lineman, games on TV, right? Are you watching the football or are you watching the defensive line on any given play?
Oh wow, yeah, I've kind of got that. Maybe that's like they call it like 1,000-yard stare or something like that, or like kind of like a parent stare where like you might seem like you're not paying attention, but you're kind of seeing everything at one time. So I'm focusing on the trenches and the ball, but like I can see things, just because I've watched some thousands of hours of tape, and I can kind of see maybe because I'm focusing on the D tackle and seeing how much they're penetrating or not getting penetration, I still can feel like that linebacker out of place on the screen, and it's crazy. And then it's like when they reverse it, it's like, oh yeah, you kind of do know what you're talking about a little bit. So yeah, it's kind of that weird in between. But I'm focusing on the trenches for sure.
Okay, but so you're processing, you're kind of directly looking at the defensive line, but you're still processing other aspects, kind of based on what you're seeing on the defensive line, basically.
Right. So I guess that's equivalent to like what quarterbacks see, right? When they see certain things, they know they can trust that over here it's this and that. And so I think in my weird defensive line way, I've in a crazy way seen it the other way because I've been on the defensive side so many years, and just looking at splits and depths of guys on the offensive line. Matt Millen told me this years ago, and again, Matt Millen, you can say whatever you want about a GM, but he was 100% true about this. He's like, man, by the time you get so good at seeing all the nuance and little stuff with football, you're going to be too old to even catch nobody in the game, and the game's going to be over for you. So you're either going to be an announcer or you're going to be a coach. But it all comes to a point for us at some point. It's just, can you match up the physical with how you see the game, and all those things marry up so you can play fast. But a lot of times, you only get maybe a short time to do those things. And I maybe got half a season to do that for myself. But I can see the game really clearly and tell you what's coming all the time. Maybe not Tony Romo-esque, but I'm up there. I'm pretty good with it.
So by the time you figure it all out, you're like used to the rooster, and you're just
that's
you're
right.
A little bit
and I'm just sitting at the top with exactly, just trying to warn somebody, no Jordan, don't do that, Jordan. But Jordan is Birch is, I'm saying Jordan Birch like he's listening to me, but this is me through my TV screen yelling at him. Hopefully he hears me, but again, I'm just too old, and I'm an old guy who nobody needs to listen to anymore, right?
So sticking with the D-line perspective, I wanted to get your take on this. Zach Pickens, right, coming into this year, former 5-star guy from my alma mater, TL Hanna, and someone that I think Gamecock fans have been looking forward to taking a step for quite a while. And a lot of people you talk to, Preston, not you, me, or others, kind of say that Zach Pickens is a guy that's got like high-level potential NFL talent. But it's kind of what you mentioned, the athletic tools maybe haven't matched up with the knowledge of the game, the execution, the technique so far. To my eye, looks like he's gotten a lot better in the technique department and playing a lot better this year. What have you seen out of Zach, and what do you think his potential is long term?
Yeah, Zach is obviously physically, he's a specimen. If I had one thing I would say to Zach, and if I see him, I'd say the same thing, is, man, just don't eat yourself, because he can physically carry that and have 15. He's probably weighing 15 to 25 more, 20 to 25 more pounds than he was when he is at TL Hanna, running, doing all these athletic things. Just don't get too far removed from that. Bigger doesn't always mean better. So part of his game was the strength, the size, the stature, but some of the quickness. So don't lose that. But outside of that, he's definitely getting better with technique. I think definitely just, playing along the line, having some more familiarity, going through the rigors of SEC season, all those different things has helped him. He's had a whole bunch of different coaches. So trying to figure out the technique that works for him. It seems like this year he's putting it all together. I mean, just watching him rush some of these times, he's rushing smarter. A lot of times you go the wrong way, or you're fighting into the slide protection the wrong way and don't know how to split the gap. I think he made a couple plays the other day where they shifted the line to block down on him from the, if he's playing on the other side of the center, he's the one technique they try to, and he crossed the face. And that's what you're taught to do on higher level NFL stuff. That's the stuff they look for when guys start just getting, understanding all the nuance. But I always would love to see him just be a little bit more svelte, because that is part of the game, and that's what they love to see. That's why we're going crazy for number 99 from Georgia. He's a huge human being, but he's going sideline to sideline with the 350 frame. And I mean, I play with guys like Sean Rogers, a bunch of just freaks. And I mean that, I don't mean that with a pejorative. As a pejorative, it's just, man, just God bless them. They just know how to run like deers and, have big old guts and butts, but can split double. I mean, just do all type of crazy stuff. So Zach is in the mold of that. But just get hungrier and hungrier as far as making the plays. Sometimes, again, that's kind of the deal when you had a whole bunch of different coaches and changes. You're still trying to like fill yourself up. You can't get kind of loose and wet like how you used to, and fluid like you used to when you were in high school. And the sooner I think he gets some familiarity and comfortability, we'll start to see more and more of the dominance. So we see it in spurts now, but I think we need more playmakers. We can never have enough. We talked about the D-line being the strength of this team this year. We need guys like that, like Zach and Jabari, to continue to just push each other and develop all that stuff and get that kind of nasty attitude for them. And I see him; he's on his way. And again, but a guy like Zach, you can't never have him fast enough, because as soon as he gets it kind of figured out, he's going to be out of here. He's going to be going to the league, right? So we always lose out on that last kind of year.
Let's zoom out just a little bit. South Carolina 3-3 right now, 6 games in, exactly at the halfway point. Give us, Langston, maybe just a couple of observations on the season so far. You can take that whatever direction you want to go with it, man.
All right. 3-3 is, I mean, it's solid. First year guy, you're still in the opportunity to probably go out there and win. Hopefully, fingers crossed, you beat this team this weekend, Vanderbilt. And that gives you 4, and you're on your way to possibly getting the 2. That's why the Kentucky game was so big. In this Tennessee game, regardless of what they've been doing offensively, you wanted to give yourself a shot. Kentucky, definitely a very, very winnable game. And, I was one of the guys at the beginning of the season that was, just kept beating the drum that, that's the benefit of being kind of young and dumb. You start off with the record and the folks that we have, if you're 4-2 or possibly 5-1, if you beat the Tennessees of the world and lose to Georgia, let's be realist about that. Okay, we're 5-1. The young guys start really buying in. You keep hearing this buy-in word all the time, culture, all those different things, especially when you get new coaches, but like how they do things. So you really get the kids paying attention to everything you're saying as a coach, as a teacher, because the proof is in the pudding. No different than an educator that says, man, if you just read a little bit every day, or you come to me before class and we work on these, problems, whatever, and they see the results in the test, it might not be the best grade in the class, but the kid understands that, all this stuff wasn't done in vain, and I'm starting to see the results. And that's the thing. I mean, they've done a whole lot, the Coach Beamer and the staff and the players. I mean, I think about back to my own, freshman year, 0-11 with Lou Holtz. I mean, I thought we were going to win the national championship. The only reason we shouldn't win the national, we got John Abraham, we got all these different things, man. Oh man, we can at least win, 9 games, 10 games, and not to win one was really frustrating, and not to see the fruits of all the arduous stuff, all the details, all the little things that Lou was putting us through. It kind of paid off for itself a year later. Thank goodness we held on to that wanting to kind of get that feeling kind of satisfied by doing the things that we were told to do and not splintering off. But I think for us, it just goes back to laying our hat on defense. I love the turnovers, all those things, but ultimately, turnovers can dry up quickly like a 3-point shooter. You can be Steph Curry the first half, and then the rim just gets really tight, and those things happen too. We saw that with the Kentucky game. We got fortunate with a whole bunch of turnovers. But then again, towards the end, we just needed more knocking back tackles than any of the turnovers or any of that stuff downfield. They were just continuing to run the football for us. So that's, I think, is the next progression for us defensively, is to just get more of those kind of, knocking back, control the line of scrimmage type of deals. We were doing solid when it comes to getting teams in third downs and different things. Obviously, last week that wasn't good, but preceding and the weeks before that, we're really good on third down. Still waiting for JJ to kind of have his dominant game and do some different things, but ultimately, defensively, we're doing good. Special teams, it's solid. We've obviously scored. We've set up some things, blocked some punts. We just have to understand that this is a weapon for us, and it's going to be probably for the next few years till we get the kind of the offense and some certain things we want to get doing. Definitely disappointed offensively with the run game and all those different things. But again, it's a different system. It's a different move over, but that still doesn't mean that we have to complicate this. Let's just get hats on hats and get guys downfield, but also understanding, if you want to put a guy in there that's going to be more of a lateral threat, let's go with the 21 kid. If it's going to be a, get downhill really quick, let's go ahead and put Kevin Harris in there and then, figure out who has the hot hand. I mean, I just think about the Baltimore Ravens last night, Monday Night Football, just how they try to, even though they have a whole bunch of backs gone, they utilize the backs. You think about the Cowboys, so we can do some different things, even though we're in the era of the spread offense. I think we can get more creative with our uses of backs and different things and get people in some personnel stuff. But, definitely the offense, I think, is trying to fill itself out, and rightfully so. We lost Luke at the beginning of the year, all these different things, and the hunger and the want to is there, but sometimes it's always just about just trying to figure out what you do really well, those 4 or 5 things from there, even if the other side of the ball really knows those things are coming, just coming and execute. But that's been kind of scary because, we've seen miss blocks here, miss blocks there. And we know, especially with how fragile a team can be on one side of the football, you don't want to put your team in a position where you get to have folks just pinning their ears back and getting up at you and you do something bad and that just shoots you and shuts you down offensively. And I think about the call last week. That was, there was a plenty more football to be played, but a lot of it took a while for those guys to start feeling the momentum shift back the other way. I don't know if it ever shifted, but they competed all the way towards the end for sure.
We got a question for you here from Justin on YouTube. Langston,
Okay.
He just wants to know, what have you thought of South Carolina's defensive scheme in particular so far? Clayton White, obviously first-year defensive coordinator. Any thoughts on the scheme just from what we've seen through 6 games?
I thought it was solid. I kind of, figured it would be a blend of the hybrid stuff, just different things I read about Clayton and obviously some trying to figure out the personnel that we had and what we can run. I think they've done a good job of mixing in some zone stuff. I don't like when you try to change it up and put JJ and Igbari in coverage. Like, if anybody's going to rush every damn down, it's going to be JJ. I don't know. He might not be rushing from the edge. We might not know where he's rushing from, but we can play him around, use him as like what they call a spinner in the NFL, where he's kind of just like a roaming guy and he chooses the lane to kind of hit. But I think for the most part, they're doing a good job of, they've done a good job of adjusting. And I think that's some of the things that's been kind of frustrating where defensively, a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, first half, these guys were playing too far off the ball. They got the message, made so kind of not as a team adjusting maybe a quarter too late, and we don't have the consistency, and so that's been probably the frustrating thing when you look at it from a totally holistic picture of offense and defense. But I think they've done a good job of Clayton and all of those guys. And if there's one big knock I want to say about anything about the defense is just the celebrating the little things. Like you just gotta, the guys are so young. You gotta. I know there's a fine balance of trying to get the enthusiasm going, get guys excited, but then don't be dumb and completely wipe away all the good stuff you just did with just a taunting penalty. And some of that stuff has been ticky tacky, but these are the things you got to really emphasize as a coach. We're not good enough to do those things yet. So when you get to be an All-American and you get to be, and you got all A's in your class, then you can start doing those things. But until then, you just got to come back to the huddle and do all that stuff with your teammates and all that stuff. So there's something there, and that's first year teaching stuff, and it'll be amazing to see how this stuff doesn't show itself. Hopefully next year, with these guys having a year underneath their belt with these guys.
Langston, dude, we appreciate the time, man. Great stuff as always. Any final couple thoughts on really anything we talked about? Any final words on the Teacher Appreciation Week as well? I know we got Preston, by the way, coming on. You guys, Preston Thorne will be on later this week, so he'll be sharing some information and some stories as well.
Absolutely. No, just teachers, we appreciate you. We thank y'all for letting us some 2 big old guys bring our book into your school and letting us kind of perform for you and showing you that it's not just a book, that we're not coming in there to talk about football stories or anything. If anything, we're talking about, how we took everything we learned with football and took it to our next play, as we like to say, and made this play the best thing for us with these skills of reading, writing, and speaking. So it's fun. I'm excited to be a Gamecock. Always love it, and no better place to to do these things in our home state. We get invited to work everywhere across the country, but we really love going across country, sideline to sideline, up, down, left, right, all across our great state of South Carolina. So it's been fun to be that kind of ambassador.
Awesome, man. Hey, I appreciate you as always. I told you this privately, but I want to say it in front of everybody else again. We appreciate you being a part of the kickoff party as well, man. That was honestly one of my favorite nights we've ever had since I started doing this. So it was an honor to have y'all there, man, and to be a part of it. And let's do it again one day, okay?
Absolutely, man. We're always here. We appreciate you guys over there at the Central, man.
All right, man. That's Langston Moore. We'll let him roll. Appreciate you as always. Joining us there for a good chat about a number of topics. Again, check out Athletes and Artists, and of course, check out the new book. We're gonna be getting the third book. I've got the first two books. I actually gave one of my good friends' daughters the first two books as birthday presents. So definitely gonna get the third as well. And we appreciate Langston for being on to join us and talk about a number of topics. Chris, before we get into Beamer and the press conference and thoughts from that, there's a question here about Oscar Delp as well. We'll get into that on the other side. But do you, Chris, you want to tell everybody about Dead Soxy?
Yep. Let me unmute myself. I'm very proud that I did not do that today, Wes. But yeah, Dead Soxy. Hopefully our man Ty Adams is here for this. DeadSoxy.com is where you need to go to check out the latest and greatest to up your sock game. 25% off your entire order with the promo code Cocky, exclusive code here from GC Live for all of our listeners and our watchers. We appreciate you all. So we've worked with Dead Soxy to make this 25% off happen. Go there and check out their men's, women's, athletics, any kind of socks that you need. Go to deadsoxy.com. That's DEADSOXY.com and use the promo code Cocky at checkout.
Yeah, let's go ahead and pay all the bills. As you saw right there, our Primal Gourmet chat line. Anytime anybody makes a comment or joins us on the show as a special guest, it is brought to you by our good friends at Primal Gourmet. Chris, you had some lunch from Primal Gourmet today, did you not?
Oh, dude, let me tell you. So Wes and I have gotten the meal packs every week. This is our second week on it, Wes, if I'm not mistaken, and got mine today. I'm on the carnivore pack, so it's double meat. You have got to get on this if you're not on it. PrimalGourmetSC.com. There you see it on the screen. Promo code GCOCK20, another exclusive GC Live promo code, will get you your percentage off of your first order. Dude, the menu this week, an absolute banger. Jerk chicken thighs today, salmon with an incredible key lime honey is awesome. So those are just two of the things. So looking forward to diving into it the rest of this week. It was awesome. We appreciate the folks at Primal.
No doubt. The bills are paid. We appreciate all those sponsors. They help make the show possible. So we appreciate that. We appreciate you, our viewers, and our listeners. Chris, Beamer presser today, as always, as it is every Tuesday. We'll hear from coordinators on Wednesday, as always. That will be an interesting one this week. But what was your takeaway, man, from what head coach Shane Beamer had today?
First of all, to address tomorrow, Clayton White will have a few more questions during the Wednesday press conference, given some of the defensive struggles, especially early in that game. Remember last week he was pretty mild, for him. And Satterfield's will be interesting. Clayton White probably a little more interesting this week. But for Beamer, man, and I published a story right before the show on Gamecock Central about this. I think just addressing the lack of fast starts, so the slow starts for South Carolina, and just the offense in general. That's kind of what stood out to me. Ran through it, Wes. Carolina's been outscored. Let's take out the EIU game. They scored 2 touchdowns in the first quarter of that game and a 2-point conversion. So 15-0 in the first quarter. After that, their next 5 games, FBS opponents, 56-9. They've been outscored in the first quarter alone. And so we saw they were able to come back in the ECU game and ultimately win that game. The Kentucky game, they were down 7-0. That ended up being a 6-point game, 16-10 at the end of the day. And then the Tennessee game obviously is the greatest example, 28-0 after the first quarter. just kind of digs an insurmountable hole. And so he addressed that and kind of why are those things happening? And to some degree, I don't know that he has the answer, right? That's something that they've got to continue figuring out because, he talked about it leading up to Tennessee. He felt they were prepared, felt the meetings were really good, said the Friday walkthrough was the best they'd had. They had talked about having a greater sense of urgency in warm-ups and to start the game, but yet the first quarter happened. So he called it kind of head scratching. So look, no doubt it's a theme from this season. The numbers don't lie. 56-9 in terms of the first quarter. It's an area they've absolutely got to get better in. They've got to be able to put it together faster, and that's offensively and defensively, right? And then I thought, just a little bit more offensive talk. He was asked about Marcus Satterfield and asked about the offensive production in total, and he just, I think, kind of pointed to more inconsistencies. Maybe you miss a guy open, maybe a route's a little off. You've got some runs that are close to being explosive runs, and he used that term a few times, close. But also said that it's got to get better and not good enough on offense.
Well, and I think, Chris, you kind of have to. I think when something like that happens, which we actually talked about this, I guess, yesterday quite a bit. How that's no way to live as far as just being down at all times. You can't, as much as you want to run your offense exactly the same, and you want to sort of do all the things you had planned. It's hard to do if you're constantly down in games that are at least winnable, and in some cases toss-up games. I don't think it's fair anymore to call that Tennessee game a toss-up game because coming in South Carolina a double-digit underdog. But point being, man, is it one of these things? And I'm not saying this as like somebody answer it. I'm saying this as in, to me, this is the big question. Is this something that is just kind of how it has played out? Or is it, it's obviously already a trend, but sometimes trends just happen with randomness. Other times trends are a result. Is this causation, correlation? Like, what is it a result of something in your preparation? Is it a result of having a game plan? And I'm not even saying it's this, I'm just throwing out ideas. Is it that the game plan wasn't quite good enough, but the adjustments were really good? Is it that the opponent didn't do what you thought they were going to do? So maybe your scout was a little bit off. Diving into that, it's hard enough if you're the head coach to dive into why it's happening. We certainly can't diagnose it. It's like asking a doctor to diagnose. So actually, it's like asking a non-doctor to diagnose a patient without even being in the room with them. We can't diagnose that. We're just seeing the results. So the coaches are at practice. The coaches are there. That you have to look at everything, I imagine. Now, is it one of these things that naturally, if they just start executing better in general, does that sort of trend maybe go away? Or is it something that's sort of ingrained where you need to change up something in your process? I don't have the answer. I don't know if anybody has the answer, but it's certainly something, one way or the other. I think everybody agrees that they need to get fixed. And, I think, Chris, I think Beamer right now is kind of having to walk that line in his press conferences where he's going to stand up for his guys. And we know that he's inherited a team that won 2 games last year. So we'll say it again, right? There's a reason why there's a coaching change. Now, the other side of that is there will become a point where fans, and some of them are probably already at that point, but there will become a point where fans will say, well, that little difference between executing something and not executing it is a big difference when it comes to the results over a period of time, and they'll throw out the, 7 offensive touchdown drives and 52 drives, or so. There's a stat people are throwing around that's not a pretty stat. So to me, it's kind of, and both things are true. Like, Beamer's not making that up. Like, it is, I'm sure it's absolutely true. And he sees how hard his guys worked or are working. It's like Langston Moore was just talking about when they went 0-11 in the building. They know how hard they're working every single week to be a successful football program. Outside the building, it's only natural for people to start to go, well, we've seen 6 games of evidence, really 5 games of evidence. I don't really count EIU in either direction. We've seen 5 games of evidence, that the offense hasn't been what anybody over there really wants it to be. So where's the truth? Is the truth that, hey, this thing still has time to click in at some point? Or is the truth that, that it is what it is at this point?
Yeah, and I think at this point it wouldn't really be fair to say, okay, the next, starting with the next game and for the remainder of the season, this offense is going to go from that statistic that you mentioned, whatever, 7 touchdowns and that many drives or whatever it is, to all of a sudden they're a 30-point a game outfit. Like, that'd be unfair, right? Odds are they're not going to figure it out to that extent. But can they make it better? Can they finish off some drives? Can they be serviceable? I mean, we saw a first quarter in Tennessee. Got 4 offensive drives, Wes. First one was a 3 and out. The next one lasted 5 plays and a punt. The next one was a great drive, but they throw a pick on the 2-yard line of Tennessee. And the next one lasted 1 play. It was a fumbled snap. You give the ball back to Tennessee. And now you're down 28-0 because a lot of things are going wrong defensively too. You look at another game and, the Georgia game, you're only down 14-6 after a quarter, right? You look at Troy, you're up 3-0. Kentucky, you're down 7-0. So, really the Tennessee game is the one that kind of skewed that, right? Like, I think you look at the other ones, ECU's 7-0, Georgia's 14-6. The other margins in the first quarter are not as big. Tennessee is skewed it. The problem is no offensive touchdowns at all in any of those first quarters. And in 3 of the games, you didn't even score at all. You have a total of 3 field goals. And so really that's not going to cut it in order to remain competitive throughout the game. Now, it's a positive that there's been enough buy-in to where the team has not quit, not against Georgia, not against Tennessee, not against East Carolina, the game they won. They fought through some things in Troy. That's a positive thing because you wouldn't want to see 6 games in a lack of effort. That'd be alarming. But there's no doubt that the starts have got to be better. I don't know what it is right now. To use your medical analogy, we're on Mayo Clinic, searching what the problem is and coming up with all sorts of things that it may or may not be.
Well, and we're on WebMD, then it's
It's the worst disease possible.
The worst possible case ever. But yeah, man. So I don't know. We'll all see. We'll all find out together. It needs to, I mean, we say it every week, it needs to get better. My thing though, Chris, if in some of those games, like ECU, for example, I guess it was 7-0 at the end of the first quarter. But if you start extending that start, like, you use the first quarter as a good, like, time, like, constraint for numbers, but they were down 14-0 before they scored in that game.
Yep.
Kentucky was 10-0 at the half. So, where do you put, like, I almost look at start as the amount of time before you, like, get going. Like, how long does it take you to get going? Luckily for them, defensively, most of the year, take out Tennessee and, say that one's skewed. Most of the year, even when the defense has given up something early on, you give up the quick 7 to ECU on, trick play, give them credit, whatever. But the quick 7 there, obviously you go down 7-0 very first drive against Kentucky. For the most part, the defense has kind of just rebounded when that has happened. Obviously not against Tennessee. Georgia was just so good top to bottom. But to me, it, like you said, it goes back to the offense and just not being able to get in that rhythm. We've seen flashes of them getting in a rhythm. It's just got to be earlier in the game. I think, to me, is the greater point in all this. Taylor asks, has anyone heard any word on Zeb? Is he done for the season? No, Zeb's available. I mean, I think Zeb's pretty much fully healthy. I think he's good to go. just not playing him right now. Let's see what else. Injury report from today. South Carolina about as healthy as they can be, other than the guys that you all already know are out. Sherrod Green obviously still out. Rick Sandage has been out all season at this point. But other than those guys, they're banged up a little bit. They're bruised up. You would expect that physical game. But for the most part, healthy. Cam Smith will be back. Jalen Nichols will be back available. Doesn't really sound like he's going to start. Rashawn Lee probably gets to start at left guard, it sounds like. I thought Vinny Murphy and Tyshawn Wanamaker did okay. Going back and watching the game a little bit.
Yeah, there was one play I was thinking of. Tyshawn kind of playing right tackle and Vinny Murphy at right guard. Wanamaker got his feet a little off and then stumbled kind of on a pass pro play. But I also saw him. I mean, he climbed to the second level and knocked someone right over, on a play as well. So that was interesting. And will we see more of that? We've continued to see a little bit of kind of a rotation of Jazz and Ja'Kai Moore at left tackle, Rashawn Lee. Now Jalen Nichols is back. What will they do there? Will there be more changes on that right side? I think, odds are Javon Gwynn is going to play a lot. Dylan Wanham's played a ton of football. Will some other guys get opportunities, and will it happen at other positions? Maybe so. So that'll be kind of a fascinating subplot as they go into the Vanderbilt game for sure.
No doubt. Let's see. I think that's about it. T wants us to talk a little bit about recruiting, and I did tease that, so I guess I should. Oscar Delp announcement tomorrow evening. Looks like a local Fox station in Georgia is going to be covering that. Did you, Chris? Did you see if that is in their studio or is it still at his high school? Do we know that?
I'm not 100% sure on that, Wes. I do not know.
The way they were promoting it, it sounded like it might be in that studio. But anyway, Oscar Delp tomorrow. I guess Jaden Gibson tomorrow as well. I don't think that one's guys honestly worth tracking anymore from a South Carolina standpoint. But Oscar Delp, we will sort of try to track this thing leading up to the announcement, see if there's any chance of a surprise. Our thought process has been this is probably going to be Georgia. We talked about it probably maybe last week or the week before. It was already close, but I think Georgia already probably, Chris, had a little bit of an edge. And then you look at the fact once he extended it out and then the season Georgia's having, the season South Carolina's having, the opportunity to go there and be used. We wondered, would Georgia be able to use their tight ends and show him tight end use this year? They've been really good at using their tight ends this year. So my guess, I think Chris's guess right now, I think the Gamecock Central guess right now is that it will be the Bulldogs.
Yeah, and not only that, Wes, like the on-field stuff. Look, I think South Carolina's done a great job, and nobody's going to want to hear that, just like they're not going to want to hear, the offense was close to breaking that run. Like, you don't want to hear that, but I think it's illustrative of, Eric Kimry and Shane Beamer did a really good job recruiting Oscar. They've done a great job, no doubt. You look at it, it's kind of like, for a guy like Oscar Delp, an in-state kid who's a 4-star and as good as Georgia is right now, as well as their recruiting, like it should almost be a no-brainer for him to go there in a lot of ways, But yeah, it hasn't been. They've made it very close. I think even taking the football factors out, Delp has kind of, I don't know if shift's the right word, but lately he's been talking a lot about just where he's most comfortable. And I think you look at the Georgia ties that he has, the in-state stuff, all of that we've been talking about adds up more, to Georgia. But South Carolina's made a heck of a run, and we will continue tracking that one up till the minute just to make sure.
Yeah, we'll find out, but seems like Georgia. All right, y'all, appreciate it. Great guest from Langston Moore. Appreciate him taking the time. Busy man, of course. We'll be joined by Preston Thorne later this week. And Chris, we're going to have Chris Lee from Vandy Sports. Is that right?
Chris Lee from VandySports.com will be on with us early in the show on Thursday, probably about 2:05, taking some time out for us before he travels. Chris is always a fantastic guest. He is He's more plugged in than anyone on the Vandy sports scene, and pulls no punches as well. So excited about having him on Thursday.
He is the most doesn't hold back media person that we have on the show, I feel like.
I was going to say that I think it would be like an octagon or a cage match between him and our guy Neil McCready from Rebel Grove.
That's true.
Like, we might need to get those two at the same time.
Neil gives gives no Fs. So appreciate him, and we appreciate Chris Lee coming on later this week. We'll see y'all soon. We appreciate the support, and we'll